Today marks Attorney General Pam Bondi's first day on the job at the Department of Justice, and she's already expected to take a series of actions designed to investigate and undo legal moves taken by the Biden administration. Bondi, a staunch Trump ally who was just sworn in this morning, has vowed to protect the department from being used as a political weapon. But her arrival comes amid severe turmoil and uncertainty from within. Yesterday, employment details for more than 5,000 FBI officials who worked on January 6th investigations were turned over to the DOJ. And just last week, the DOJ fired more than a dozen prosecutors who worked on cases related to the insurrection and President Trump. Those officials received letters of termination like this one, reading it in part, quote, "This decision is based upon your actions in the prosecution of persons relating to events that occurred at or near the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. Joining us now is Jake Strubing. He's one of several federal prosecutors who received that letter and was fired last Friday. Jake, thanks so much for being with us. The termination letter you received says that you were fired based on your actions prosecuting people related to January 6th. Trump characterized those prosecutions as a grave national injustice. I wonder what your response is.
Thank you, Boris. Thank you for having me. My response is that January 6, 2021 was a grave national injustice. I've spent the last year and a half prosecuting felony and misdemeanor defendants for their roles in the riot at the United States Capitol on January 6th. And those prosecutions have been upheld by countless juries in the District of Columbia, by grand juries, by basically every judge on the federal district court here in D.C., and by several judges on the federal appellate court.
So essentially, you see this as an affront to the system of justice in the United States. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And I'm deeply concerned about the independence of the Department of Justice and the FBI going forward. I think we could see the potential for the prosecution of perceived political enemies, and that, quite frankly, doesn't make us any safer, and it does not protect us from the real criminals. And I really feel for the FBI agents, hundreds, if not thousands, who are on the chopping block at this point in time. And I think it's important for your viewers to know that those FBI agents are not January 6th agents. Those are agents who work on terrorism cases, they work on violent crimes, they work on child exploitation matters. Firing them would make us less safe, and quite frankly, they may be working on a bunch of meritorious cases right now, and who's going to bring those cases and do justice in those cases? So that's what I'm concerned about, and concerned about, quite frankly, what we're seeing is anti-law enforcement, anti-police.
To that point, the termination letter that you got essentially says that you are hindering efforts to fully implement the agenda that Donald Trump was elected to execute. What do you think that implies about who ultimately may replace you or your colleagues?
Boris, that's a good question, and quite frankly, I don't know the answer to it. I will say, speaking on my behalf, I was more than willing, when the pardons came down and essentially the January 6 cases ended, I was more than willing to continue to serve in the U.S. Attorney's Office, despite kind of the chaos and hysteria that's going through the federal government right now. I was willing to prosecute local violent crimes in D.C. and keep doing that. I think that's a great mission. But I'm concerned that, with these firings of 12 prosecutors, including myself, who would have been doing local violent crimes in D.C., that even the D.C. community now is less safe.
Are you concerned about your own safety, given the nature of some of the crimes that you've prosecuted?
It's a difficult question. I think the answer to that is yes and no. But as I think I've mentioned this before, but at the end of the day, I have to remember that we all swore an oath to the Constitution to enforce the laws of the United States and to follow the evidence without fear or favor. And I fulfilled that oath, and I have no hesitation about that.
I know that several FBI agents are filing this class action lawsuit against DOJ over their firings. You've previously said that you are considering your options. I just wonder what goes into your decision-making process, what factors you're weighing right now.
That's a good question, Boris. I don't want to comment on any pending litigation or potential litigation. But I will say that I am just considering all of my options
Sure.
and thinking about my next steps in my career.
Given that today is AG Bondi's first day, she's expected to announce this review into more than 1,500 January 6th related cases. What do you think might come of that review?
I don't know what will come of that review, but I will say that review will show that we did justice and we did right. We followed the evidence, we followed the law in each of those cases, and as I mentioned previously, those prosecutions were upheld by countless federal judges. And I do think it's a bit of a double-edged sword for this administration to keep attacking January 6th because, well, quite frankly, it may not end well for them because of the strength of the evidence and the strength of these cases. And as I used to tell DC juries, you don't have to take my word for it. You can look at the video because this is the single most reported crime in the history of this country.
Yeah, that is a strong point. I do wonder regarding Bondi, is there anything you think that she could say or do that would reassure folks inside DOJ who are watching all of this and are nervous, not only for their own positions within the agency, but for what you alluded to, the integrity of the Department of Justice?
That's a good question, Boris. I think anything that she could do to affirm the independence of the Department of Justice and to reassure prosecutors and FBI agents that they're going to follow the evidence above all else, I think that would be the most important thing at this point in time.
Jake Strubing, we have to leave the conversation there. We look forward to picking it up if you do decide to move forward with some kind of litigation. We'd love to hear what comes next.
Thank you, Boris. Thank you for having me.